Okay, so today I'm going to be replacing the bearings in this hub here on this trailer. It makes a little bit of noise. You roll it, and it's also got a little bit of side-to-side play in the bearing. And I'm going to pull it apart, and I'm going to take a look at everything, make sure that nothing's messed up in the hub. And then I'm going to put it back together and put it back on the trailer with a fresh set of bearings in there and reuse the hub if possible. The first thing I'm going to do in taking off this trailer hub is I'm going to remove this dust cap. I'm going to remove the wheel. These are 5 21 millimeter bolts. Alright, so I choked up on the bearing here, and here's the cotter pin to get the castle nut off. And so I'm just going to show you how I get the castle nut off. I'm just going to take the cotter pin, I'm going to bend it down with a pair of diagonals. Alright, let's see. Good. Alright, now I'm just going to push this up a little bit so I can grab the head of the castle, or the head of the cotter pin. Start pulling on it. Let it walk it through. Then the castle nut on this axle should be pretty loose. Let's see if I can spin it up by hand. Alright, so now I got the castle nut and I got the cotter pin off. This should just slide right off with a little bit of finesse. Alright, so this is the bearing, how it came off the hub. The castle nut here been on the end there, and then underneath the castle nut we're going to have this washer right here, and then underneath that washer we're going to have the first, this is going to be your outer bearing, and then inside here, this hub right here, but this right here is the outer bearing, and on the back side here we're going to have this outer seal. The outer seal is this part right here. So you're going to have an outer seal, goes around, and it says flush with the end of the hub, and then inside here we're going to have a race with a bearing sitting on top of it, just like this one inside. And so I just get done hammering through the hammering the bearing out. And so here's the bearing race. Looking at the bearing race itself, it appears that we got pitting going on pretty deep, and so that's what is making the noise in the hub. So I'll replace this bearing. Here's the bearing part number I'm using. It's L44649. I got that off of the old bearing. Have the part number right here. Because both bearings have the part number, the same part number, that's how I know that these are the correct bearings to replace this with. When I'm doing these bearings, I'm also replacing these old races with a new race. And when I put these races in, so I hammered out the old race, and to put the new race in, I'm going to put it in here. I'm actually going to press this in. Okay, so now that I got the races pressed in, I'm going to pack these bearings. This is the inner bearing, so I'm going to put the inner bearing in, and then I'm going to put the seal on the end. And so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get grease in here, and how I'm going to get grease in here is I'm going to take a dollop of grease. I'm just using marine grease. I'm going to put it on my hand here. I'm going to take the bearing, I'm going to scoop it up. I'm going to keep on packing it in there. I'm waiting to see it come out the other side. Kind of dragging it down. And so you see how it's starting to come through. Just going to pack a little bit more in there. I'm going to work my way around the whole bearing doing that. Alright, so now that I got the I got some grease in here, and I have my bearing lubed and all greased up, I got my seal. I'm going to put the bearing in. Gotta make sure that the bearing is seated in there. Now I'm gonna take the seal, I'm gonna set the seal on there, and then I'll just press that flush as well. I'll go do that real quick. Alright, so now that I have that pressed flat, I'm gonna flip this over and do the other side. And then once I get the other side done, see if I can see it on the axle there. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take, I'm gonna put a light coating of grease on the spindle here, so that way when I go to slide the hub on, it'll slide on nice and easy. Alright, so now that I have the hub on, I just pushed it right on. There was a little bit of a finesse to get it on there, but it went on pretty easily. Alright, so now I'm going to put the washer on the end there. I'm going to start putting on, so I got the washer in there and make sure it's in there, and then I'm going to put this castle nut on the back end. Alright, so now just going to spin that a little bit, make sure it moves. I'm going to take a wrench, and I'm just going to turn this a little bit, and I'm just going to check. I'm going to see how it feels. I don't want to over tighten. I'm going to see, make sure. So I'm going to tighten it down. I'm going to load the bearing. So I'm just going to go until I feel a little bit of resistance in the bearing. Alright, let's see. And once I get to that point, I'm going to back it off about a quarter turn, put the cotter pin in. Alright, so now that I got this wheel adjusted right, I got the little hub bearing set, and I got the wheel on here, and I put on the greasable Easy Lube grease dust cap. I'm just going to give you a demonstration so I can, now I spin it. You don't hear that grumbling that was in there before, and it's got side to side, there's no side play on this, and so it's nice, rolls smooth, there's no excessive play in there, and so this is a job well done.